What's up, everybody? Welcome to our channel, Honest Hockey Takes. I'm Hohen, and this is Scott. Today's video will be the Fantasy Friday special, and today's video specifically will be about talking about the 3 buy lows and 3 sell highs.
Yeah, so we're going to start off here with our sell highs. So we're going to talk about 3 players that we think have been a little too good right now and we feel are bound to fall off some point in the next week or two, or at some point before halfway through the season at the very least. And we're going to start off with Filip Hronek from Detroit Red Wings. This guy is almost a point per game player. As a guy who's regarded as the second defenseman on this team, I don't see any way that this can keep up the entire year. Moritz Seider is their defenseman of the future. He is their number one, and right now he has finally regained his spot on the first power play unit. I see Hronek's stats starting to fall as the weeks go on.
Yes, this was a very obvious pick here. I feel like I love Filip Hronek as a proper defenseman on this team, but for fantasy hockey purposes, right now he is being put into a situation like the power play unit. I definitely see, like Scott alluded to, Moritz Seider is the number one defenseman on this team. He's just having a low slump right now, but eventually I think Moritz Seider is too good of a player to stay in a slump. He will find his game eventually, and he'll take back that power play one.
Yeah, and Hronek in his career, he's been a very serviceable defenseman. We actually really like Hronek as just an overall player, but for fantasy purposes, he's never shown us anything that makes us believe that he's going to consistently be like a 55, 60 point defenseman by the end of this year. So if that's the case, why not get rid of him at the top when he's at his absolute peak?
And the next sell high that we have is Pierre-Luc Dubois from the Winnipeg Jets. This guy played his best hockey under John Tortorella's system because because the coach spanked him. Just kidding. But he was hard on him on playing a defensive game. When he went to New Winnipeg Jets, he just didn't look the same. He just looked a little lazy on some of the shifts there. I just feel like right now he's leeching off of Kyle Connor currently, and I just don't know how long that's going to keep up. He has never shown that he's a point per game player. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really feel super confident in the long-term outlook for this guy. One, we know he hasn't really ever had a point per game season or close to it really. He'll get you in the mid 60s sometimes. That's his career high pretty much. But on top of that, Scheifele eventually is going to go back with Kyle Connor. Right now they have Scheifele playing as the second center, playing with Perfetti and Wheeler, and then they have Connor playing with Dubois. But we all know, history has shown us with this team especially, that Scheifele and Connor are most likely to be reunited. And when that happens, Dubois' point total is going to fall off a cliff. So I would say trade him now, see what you can get for him, if it's something decent at least. I mean, I'm not saying give this guy away for a waiver wire player. But if you can get something worth value, either a new defenseman or a decent forward, then I would for sure do that.
Yeah, I believe he's also just a core center on the fantasy hockey, correct?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously want to focus on having more versatility, and he doesn't really add anything super special to your team, really.
Yeah, and I have this guy many times before, and I've been disappointed in every year when I had him. So in my head, I'm never gonna get this guy ever on my team again
He's been
because
scorned.
he's one of those guys that can score a lot and then he will just die. It won't do anything anymore.
He goes on streaks where he can you could see him literally go 5 games without a point. It
Yeah.
happens all the time. So
Yeah, so that's why right now is a great time to sell high on him.
yeah, people are gonna look and be like, "Damn, this guy's actually popping off." Little do they know, he's probably falling off soon.
Yeah.
All right, and our third and final sell high player, we got Jordan Eberle from the Seattle Kraken. Now, as we all know, the Kraken have been off to a really hot start right now. They seem to be beating almost freaking everybody right now, and they're scoring a ton of goals. And Jordan Eberle has been one of the benefactors of this. The guy is almost a point per game, with 23 games played and 21 points. I just can't see that lasting, though. One, I think eventually this Seattle Kraken team is going to stop scoring at such a high rate. Because last year, I know their team was slightly different, but they were nowhere near this. And on top of that, Jordan Eberle in his career has shown us, even in his best years, he's not a point per game caliber of player. And they switch their lines around so much that I think it's so reliant on who he ends up playing with and what power play unit he ends up being on. And I just don't trust that team, especially with the way that they mix things up, to keep Eberle's production up this long.
Yeah, I've watched Eberle many years, and I know what this guy's all about. And I've seen him where he would put up 4 points against games that don't really matter, and then he would go quiet on games where it really matters. So, but in terms of Seattle Kraken, I just don't see that they're going to keep up with this insane winning streak that they're on right now.
And scoring just in
And
general.
just scoring, they're just that game where they put up like 9 goals against the the LA Kings.
Yeah, that was a wild one.
That's just an outlier. I just feel like this team is a good team this year, a huge improvement from last year. I ultimately don't think they're still a playoff team as of right now, and eventually they're gonna hit a wall, and I feel like Jordan Eberle is also going to hit that wall when the team hits that wall. So
here's how I like to look at it. This player, Jordan Eberle,
Yeah.
has played with guys like Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Matt Barzal in his career. And even with those top tier talents, those are 3 of like the best passers out there in the entire league. Even with those guys, Eberle still wasn't scoring like 40 goals. He wasn't putting up like 80-point seasons. So what's to make us think that he's going to do it now in Seattle? I mean, we're just using history here. It just doesn't seem very likely.
no. And now I'm going to introduce the buy low candidates. And at number 1, we have Anze Kopitar from the LA Kings. One of my all-time favorite players
Love this
ever.
guy.
Just a great two-way centerman. He did so much for this franchise of LA Kings. He's a huge part of winning those Stanley Cups. Love this player. I mean, a lot of people are thinking that this guy is done, but I'm like, no, this guy is coming back. Today he had 2 goals, and he's looking really, really sharp. This guy's still a number 1 center, and Todd McLellan loves playing him, and Todd McLellan still believes he is the number 1 center in this league. So there's no reason to not get this guy while he's at the low point per game right now.
Yeah, I completely agree with Hohen here. Anze Kopitar seems like a timeless player. He's one of those guys that pretty much right up until he retires, he's going to be near a point per game player. And he had a really, really slow start to this year. He went like, I think, 5-6 games without even getting a point at some points. But then they made some switches with the lines. They reunited him with Kempe, and as well, he's playing with Kevin Fiala. So this line, Kevin Fiala, Adrian Kempe, and Anze Kopitar, they have some sick chemistry right now. In the last 4 games, they've just been popping off hard, and I can't see why they would ever split these guys up again. It doesn't make any sense. Fiala's leading the team in points. He's a really good fit with Kopitar, and it's going to help Kopitar put up a lot more points. And with that, he's also going to have someone who he can confidently pass the puck to and just know that the shot's going to go in because Fiala's a great shooter on top of that.
And one last thing I want to add about Anze Kopitar is one thing that I really look for in fantasy hockey is reliability and injuries. And Kopitar rarely gets injured.
He's pretty durable for the most part through his career. Like, the guy's played like over 13 seasons and he's still going. He's still super durable. Very few major injuries.
Yeah, I think it's big reason is because he's in such good shape. He's a big size player, plays well on the boards, everything. Just a great player.
And I love the ice time he's going to get because, one, he's on the first line, but he's also getting the power play 1 time, and he gets shorthanded penalty killing time. There's so many options for him to put up points. It's just unreal. And at this point, with that slow start, I'd want to go get on like a trade for him while sentiment on him is still kind of down.
Yep.
Our next buy low candidate is going to be Lucas Raymond from the Detroit Red Wings. So far, in 22 games, Raymond's only managed to put up 14 points. This is a player who's very young still. I mean, he's in his early 20s. And last year, he was like a rookie phenom that came on and just went crazy for the first 41 games and then fell off in the second half of the season. But you know what? I think this guy has an absolute ton of potential. And on top of that, he's a winger. And we all know fantasy hockey, you would love to get a good winger because, I mean, there's so many centers out there, as we've already talked about a few. But wingers truly are really valuable. And Lucas Raymond just adds so much because lately he's started to score some goals, which was like not really his strong suit. He's primarily a passer, but you just have so much potential upside with this guy, especially if he's going to be playing with Dylan Larkin like he was the last couple games.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot about his fellow teammate right now, Moritz Seider. They're both kind of struggling a little bit, and I think these guys are just too good of players to kind of pass on. They have elite skill set. Everyone knows that. In Lucas Raymond's case, he has elite passing, right?
Yeah.
He's the assist king on this team, in my opinion. Just he's super skilled player. He is hitting a little bit sophomore slump right now, but I feel like he should be able to find his game later in the year, especially with guys with the new addition that they had on this team with like Andrew Cobb and David Perron should be able to shelter him a little bit better. He doesn't have to be like the main guy like he was last year. So yeah.
Yeah, and just from watching his games, he looks like he has an extra pep in his step lately. Like he's really turning it on. He's becoming more physical, which is shocking because I always thought he got bodied around pretty good. But another thing I'd like to just say about this guy is when he got drafted, like a couple years ago, his draft comparable was Mitch Marner. That is who his style is most comparable to. And I mean, we all know with his 18 game point streak right now how valuable Marner is, especially for fantasy purposes. So, I mean, if Raymond can even be close to that, you're laughing. And if you can buy him this low when he's like struggling, you could probably not have to pay much to get him.
And the final buy low candidate will be Bryan Rust from the Pittsburgh Penguins. This guy is really struggling right now. With 24 games played, he has 10 points. And this is not going to keep up. He's playing with some of the best players well, maybe not anymore, but he is playing with the best players on the team in Malkin, and he's playing on the top power play unit. And funny story about this player is I remember that one year he was injured. I picked him up at like 1%, and this guy became one of the big reason why I won the championship that year was because this guy scored 30 some goals that year. So it just shows like this guy has the capability of scoring a ton of goals. That should not be understated. He's a very good hockey player. He's going through a low slump right now, but I feel like it's a good time to buy low on him.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be on a power play unit that features Evgeny Malkin, Sidney Crosby, and Jake Gunsel. Like, we're just there, right there. Like, even if he gets a secondary assist here and there or a tap-in goal being greasy in front of the net, he's going to have his opportunities. And on top of that, he's playing on the second line with Malkin and Zucker. This is not a bad line. This is really solid. They've just had a tough time in the last, 2 weeks. But really, in reality, we know he's going to find it. This is a guy who's been a point per game player or very close to a point per game player for the last 3 seasons. He's not that old. He's 30 years old. He's still in his prime of his career. So I don't see why he would fall off this hard permanently. I think we're going to start seeing a turnaround, and we're going to start seeing this guy start racking up some goals and assists over the next 2-3 weeks for sure.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to add is I believe the Pittsburgh Penguins will be a very competitive team down the stretch. I feel like they're going to compete for playoffs.
Oh, they're fighting back for that playoff spot. They're not going to go down without a fight.
Usually you want players that are competing for playoff spot because they're playing hard during those times, right?
Yeah, no, even today, they played really hard. So, I mean, I think it's positive and up for a lot of the Penguins players, but especially Bryan Rust. But that's it for our video today, guys. I hope you guys all enjoyed and learned something and found a couple players that you would like to either turf or pick up. If you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe below, and we will talk to you soon in our next video. Take care.
Take care, guys. Bye.